I have to tell you guys, I hope all of you attended a fair, attended either Art Miami Week was explosive. What a wonderful venue that was. Context, Aqua, Pulse, Scope. I mean, all the shows. It was just an incredible time to be in Miami. Hopefully, you guys also went to see the PAM, the new Perez Miami Art Museum. Perez Art Miami Museum. It's hard to get that PAM out there, but I got to tell you, I was there for the members opening, which I'm a sustaining member, and I hope all my listeners do become a sustaining member. It's not much money to become a member and to support your local art institutions. It's so important to support, to go out there and show your support. I think a membership is $50 only. I mean, to when you see that PAM and what a gorgeous area it's at in a Bicentennial Park, right on the water. You see all the cruise ships and the collections. I mean, it is a wonderful, the building itself is an art piece. I was able to host an event, or to help host an event. My company has a division called Murals for Morale. And Murals for Morale is where we bring artists to work on a mural live at a venue, and then that mural is given to schools or it's sold for a silent auction, and all that money empowers a nonprofit. And I was very fortunate for Friday night to be with Trek 6. And Trek 6, as we all know, Nelson Mandela passed away on Thursday evening, and may he rest in peace. And we do believe Murals for Morale really wanted to embrace the legacy of hope that he left. And so I had spoken to Trek and said, hey, I know you know that Mandela passed away last night. Is there any way you can do a portrait of Mandela while you're spray painting live for an audience? And he goes, no way, because portraits are very difficult to do, take me about 8 hours, and God forbid it doesn't look like the person. I'm not going to do that to myself as an artist. I went, okay, fine. How about a little profile then? And he goes, nope. And he ended up actually doing it. And within 3 hours, I mean, that man clocked himself to the T. I was so impressed with him. All with spray paint. This man made the most gorgeous face of beautiful face of Mandela, the eyes, the smile, everything really just came through like he was right there in spirit. And Huffington Post picked it up, and the social media frenzy went wild. It was a trend blazer in social media. I think the Mandela site alone got several million hits. And Huffington Post named Trek 6 Mural of Mandela as #1 mural for that day, Friday, December 6th. So I'm very proud of Trek 6, and I'm very proud of Murals for Morale that really got these artists, or they themselves really donated their time to doing the portrait of Mandela. That mural is going to be visiting several schools around the nation. We actually got Nelson Mandela's foundation was here for Art Basel, the director, and he, of course, he didn't know that Mandela was going to pass away, so it happened while they came for trip to Art Basel and Art Miami Week, and they reached out to us, and they came to see the mural. And they reached out to say, hey, can we take it to Johannesburg? So, guys, you'll be getting flyers from me, those that are part of my email database. And if you're not and you want to become, please reach out to me, theartexperiences@gmail.com, the, T-H-E, art, A-R-T, experiences, with an S.com, at gmail.com. And I will make you part of my database where you'll get all the great receptions and parties that all about art. Everything is about art and empowering art. Well, with that said, I got to tell you, Basel was great. Sales were great. I was booked solidly daily with doing the corporate private curations of the tents. Really loved Art Miami and Pulse once again also right up there with the showings and the great galleries they brought in. Well, on another note, I'm really pleased to bring to my audience and to my show today wonderful, our very own Miami Beach native, photographer and author, and a world-renowned expert on historical photographic techniques and the process making of it, Jill Enfield. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you. I mean, Marcia Rabinowitz is a really close friend of mine. I love her to death. And she kept mentioning about her sister-in-law and how she's in New York and she's a top photographer and did this wonderful book. And if there was any way that when you came down, because you're going to be holding a lecture and a class, and I'm going to let my audience hear all about it from your mouth, but it's going to be at Books and Books tonight, actually, on December 10th at 8 o'clock. And I just love, the passion that, as I was looking at your book and the process and a guide to all of this, now you've been for 20 years working at Parsons and the International Photographic School in New York City?
Yes, I've been teaching actually these processes. It's the International Center of Photography and Parsons, the New School for Design.
I actually went to Parsons.
Really?
I went to Parsons for 2 months only.
Oh.
I wanted to become a fashion designer, and I joined, and I was so excited, but in the daytime I was working, and at that time, I started to do the 101 drawing of the fashion silhouettes, and it's a fabulous school. And when I see it on TV with the Parsons, the runways and
the Project Runway.
Project Runway, it just brings back memories. But I'm a New York native. I was born and raised in New York City, Bronx, New York, and then later on as a teenager, late teens, and all the way through my fashion and modeling career was in New York City. And so I love where you're from. Now you're here bracing and coming back and visiting us. Tell our audience why you're here.
Well, I'm here because Mitchell Kaplan at Books and Books invited myself and then Robert Wilson to come and speak. And it's nice because we really can work in tandem together, the two of us. Robert wrote a book called Matthew Brady, Portraits of a Nation, which is a biography of Matthew Brady, which brings him really alive about the man. And he was a photographer during the Civil War and uses several of the historical techniques, well, they weren't historical then, but that I use now.
Right.
And I just did a book called Jill Enfield's Guide to Photographic Alternative Processes, Popular Historical and Contemporary Techniques, which is a how-to book on all of these old photographic darkroom techniques combined with some of the digital techniques of today. So it spans the whole 200-plus year history of photography. And so with that, we can both speak, and really bounce off each other.
I think it's phenomenal because it is a dying breed. If you don't keep it alive, if you don't keep these historical techniques alive, where it continues, then, generations in the future just lose it, So having authors and people passionately committed to dedicating their life work in teaching students and future generations about these historical techniques. Now, for most people, Matthew Brady was known as Brady of the Broadway in the 1840s and in the 50s. He was a businessman, and he also created it was the first time that in the Civil War is the first time that photography was taken. It's the birth of journalism, basically. So, never before did the American public get to see or view pictures of a war prior to the Civil War through Matthew Brady's lens.
That's correct.
And so it's really phenomenal to think that from Matthew Brady comes this whole birth of photojournalism that young kids today don't even consider, they don't know about Matthew Brady. They don't know, even our iconic photographers like, Clyde Butcher and people that use these old techniques, Bert Stern, you look at these old techniques that they did, and it's not digital. When Bert Stern took that picture, the driest of the driest, which was the gin, the Smirnoff vodka, I'm sorry, he literally took a glass of water, and the glass of water, the reflection inverted the building. And these are little old-fashioned techniques that kids nowadays just go on the digital and pop a button and that's it. It's done.
Buttons.
Push buttons. And you stop the button pushing. You show them what it is to put your hands, roll up your sleeves and wet your hands and get your fingers dirty and do the magic on your own.
And I think that's so important. First of all, I think that that's what creates passion. I think that just being able to push a button or say, oh, I can fix it in Photoshop later, doesn't really get you to understand what's going on. And it's so important. For me, I'm always telling my kids or my students, you have to do something that you're passionate about. And this is what, getting your hands dirty, as you say, is what is really, is what creates the passion. And knowing what kind of light is happening. And for Bert to be able to know, I mean, that shot took him days.
Days, yeah.
Days to create.
Yeah.
Because he had to plan it, he had to create it,